Saskatchewan. So
Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Saskatoon,
Saskatchewan.
I'm going to make you say that 10 times fast. Let's see if you could do it.
Probably not.
So for people who maybe they're new to Spring Meadows or haven't, maybe they've just watched the movie or have been told by a friend to look into this, what would you explain, what do you guys do, first off?
Well, first off, I mean, we're committed to food safety and quality. That's whether it's where we source our ingredients or our packaging, everything. We're all about quality.
And you guys do a raw food, not canned or...
We're a raw, species appropriate diet.
Okay, cool. And so I've been able to see the process yesterday, and what I've seen is a simple process. So talk to me a little bit about the simplicity of what you do and why it's simple, because I'm starting to see a theme as I travel around in regards to simplicity.
Well, how we came up with the style of diet just kind of made sense. Like, if you look at the wolf in the wild, and that's kind of how this raw feeding came about. So they would take down an animal and eat pretty much everything. You know, nothing went to waste. So growing up on the farm when we were doing slaughter and stuff, I mean, you know, we'd feed you know, them bits and pieces of, you know, keep all the good meats for us and feed them the bits and pieces as we were slaughtering, right? So when we got into doing this, it kind of made sense to keep that, what a wolf would take down, but we need to make it safe to go into people's homes. So we did that by, we take the whole animal, we get rid of any risk materials. And that would be the spine, intestine, brain, all that stuff. Okay. So the animals, they're called eviscerated. And then we keep the organs, like hearts and livers and kidneys and that stuff, right? Okay. And we add that back.
Okay.
So basically, with what you seen yesterday with the turkey, you seen the whole turkey, and that'd be the same turkey that would go on your table at Thanksgiving, you know, and we added the organ meats back to it, and ground it all up, and that's where you get the nutrition from the whole animal that way.
Yeah.
You know, not just, you know, say bits and pieces of turkey and some organ meats. You get the whole animal nutrition.
And it's very cool to see that in the form of how you guys do it. Because I think one of the most important things for people to understand is, you know, dogs and cats have their own specific nutritional requirements. So there's macronutrients, micronutrients. So that would mean, you know, they're needing essential, what do you call it, essential nutrients. That would be the word. So vitamins, minerals, etc. You can get that through 1,000 different ways. So some dry food companies can get that through corn and wheat. I think the most fascinating thing to see is a whole animal, so a whole turkey with, you know, organs as well. And to really sort of think, oh, all of the essential nutrients can be received through the food, through something this simple, this whole food nutrition, basically. It's what I call it, whole food nutrition. So I think that's pretty fascinating to see. Or you would have to get 1,000 other ingredients. You know, it's very interesting to start comparing. It takes a while to do, but compare different ways different people do it to see the simplicity of whole foods.
And we also recommend that people feed a variety
of proteins. Because there's different essential
nutrition from different protein sources, right?
So turkey is going to have different nutritional benefits than, I would say, beef or lamb or...
And we list some of those on our website.
Okay.
So people can take a look at that, you know. And we also recommend an omega product when you're feeding raw, you know, like a fish oil.
What is the omega adding, or that?
Well, there's not as much omega that you'd want. That's something that you need to add.
Okay.
You know, there's some omegas, but you definitely need to add additional.
Okay. One of the things I thought was interesting, so we met a veterinarian yesterday. Something that was very interesting to me that she stated is, we often go back to, well, the wolf in the wild. It's just like, we're not talking about a wolf in the wild, we're talking about a dog in the wild, because it's a very outdoorsy, I would say, society here. And then where I come from in Florida, it's very outdoorsy as well. So I grew up, with my family as hunters. And then, you would see the dogs catch a rabbit, or the dogs,
Mm-hmm.
catch a bird, essentially. But you would have bird dogs that would go bird hunting or track down deer, etc. So I grew up seeing the catch and the kill of a normal dog, whether it's a, bulldog, pit bull. You see that in the wild. In the wild, meaning they're running through the woods. I think that, in cities or wherever people are used to cats and dogs being in the house or domesticated, but literally it's just not that far off outside to where they would run through pretty much every dog and then catch and kill. So I think it's interesting to where, it's the wolf comparison, but really it's not. It's just the dog outside running through the wolf or woods comparison.
Yeah. And actually, that's the first time I've heard somebody explain it that way too.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And
I always make the joke where my father had a cornfield, and I never saw the dogs go in the cornfield and come out with a corn cob. Just saying. They never went to the watermelon patch to get a watermelon, but I think that's interesting in regards to the approach to feeding. So I think that's a common theme with whoever I speak to, is the approach to feeding. And people often wonder, well, what is the approach to feeding? Well, the approach to feeding is either you're extruding unnecessary, or what is argued to be unnecessary, ingredients into a dry food, or you're extruding more necessary ingredients into a dry food, or you're not processing with heat necessary ingredients into a fresh format, which people call raw. So your approach to feeding is more whole animal and fresh and raw feeding. You guys don't get into canning or anything, because it's obviously not necessary. It's just
no, and that's not our focus.
Yeah.
Right. We believe in that whole fresh feeding.
Mm-hmm.
That's what interested us when we got started. How that made sense to feed a species appropriate whole fresh diet, and we've built our business according to that.
Did you go through any different ways of potentially doing this, and then you settled on what you currently do? Like, I guess
we didn't make a lot of changes. It's like you've seen yesterday. It's really simple, and
Yeah.
I think the more simple, the less processed we can keep it, the better.
Yeah.
So we did talk to some holistic veterinarians and some long-time raw feeders, guys that have been doing it for 20 years before we started, just to get some advice on where we should go, and and what they were looking for, in a diet or whatever, what made sense. And we kind of rolled with that. And this it's just so simple, but yet so there's so much quality in that.
Yeah.
So.
And Carp FM is something we've been talking about a lot, which is a really big interest in, one of the things I was excited about getting to come here is because there's many different ways to make a pet food or a raw pet food, and I really like the approach of Carp FM. So would you mind explaining that a little bit to me? What is Carp FM?
What I did is the association.
Okay, so it's Canadian
Association of Raw Pet Food Manufacturers.
Okay.
What they did is they created a set of guidelines for us to follow to implement our GMP program in our facility.
Good manufacturing.
Good manufacturing practices.
Okay.
And that entails a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
From we need to source our ingredients from inspected facilities.
Okay.
And you need to track your
Everything,
products,
yeah.
from start to finish. As you've seen a little bit yesterday, you filmed one of our logs,
Okay.
and you can see everything we have on there, and we can show another one today too. And you can see, room temperatures on there. We have initials who's done it. People confirm that it's been done. Our best before dates are there. Temperatures of the product, room temperature. We document everything, and what that boils down to is traceability. So you need some way to be able to track it through your system. And our traceability at the retail level or the consumer level stems from our best before date.
Okay.
So if I get that best before date in the product, I can trace it back through our system, what went in it, when it was produced, all that stuff. And CARP FM really helped us develop that, along with our auditors. We get audited, 7 times we've been audited, 7 years in a row now, and we've passed our audits, which you need to meet an 80% to be able to pass and show the CARP FM logo on any
So
of your
CARP
products.
FM will provide you with the ability to include on your food packaging, we are a part of this, or we meet these standards. So then the consumer can then go research and find out what the standards are and see that they're being met. Because if you're not meeting 80% of it at least, then you can't use it, right?
If you haven't reached at least an 80%, then you cannot use it.
Okay.
It means you haven't met the guidelines,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. I think one of the interesting thing here for me is many companies will say, well, we have quality control methods, and you really kind of go to figure out, well, what are the quality control procedures? And they're very vague. So in regards to this, if the consumer, this would fall into quality control technically. So
For sure.
if
It's
someone,
all about quality control, for sure. Yeah.
so someone writes you, and then you're able to say, well, we are a part of this CARP FM, and then this is the quality control methods that we follow in our plant on a daily basis.
Yeah, and they can actually go to the CARP FM website,
Okay.
and you can read those guidelines.
Easily accessible.
Yeah.
And you mentioned in the past that it's not something that happened overnight. So you guys were at one point in time wanting this, because I guess it's confusing as a pet food manufacturer. You want everything documented and detailed and traced. And did this help you?
Oh.
Because you were sort of looking for a way to do
It
that.
was really hard to find that already existed.
Yeah.
For a raw pet food manufacturer. I mean, there's some sources out there. They steer you here, they steer you there, but to get this set of guidelines,
Consistency.
And that really gave us a good base to where to go with our GMP program, right? And then once we developed that, and then through the audits, the ongoing audits, we just improve it. So we're adding to it, different things that we should be doing, and really it boils down to, once you get your audits, you pass your first one, it's just increasing the paperwork that you need to do, the traceability, and just monitoring things, right?
Yeah. Do you find that so if you're meeting the 80%, do you find, or maybe you get 100%, so then are you just like, okay, every year I'm doing 100%, or do you identify things that you can improve upon and you let them know, or do they let you know, or?
Well, the auditors that we get, and we should make a point of this, they're third party. We don't hire them. We hire a company to hire our auditor.
Okay.
So they do that for us. And where was I going with that?
So you're not hiring auditors?
Yeah, we don't hire the auditor to go through our facility. And their part in this is to, first off, to make sure we're saying what we're doing and doing what we're saying, and rate us on how we're doing.
Okay.
Right? And that's where that 80% comes from. Now they're also saying, okay, after our audit's done, we'll get a list. Okay, this is where you can improve. This is things, and a lot of these things where we can improve aren't necessarily in our.
Sorry, I'm just making sure. Okay, 9 minutes. Cool. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Are making sure that all these protocols. I forgot where I was going.
Are in place, basically.
Well, they're all in place, but like they give us that list of things to improve on.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily in the guidelines.
Okay.
You know, so we're at that point, we're taking it above and beyond the protocols that we need to meet.
Now, all of these protocols, you know, what is interesting is I will see it in the United States. It may be similar in Canada, it may not be, but in the United States, it's often the judgment, or I would say sometimes the attacking of, I don't know if attacking is a good word, but the attacking of the final product. And I often go back to, well, what guidelines is the FDA or whoever providing to raw food manufacturers in order to mitigate risk, to make sure that you're creating a healthy, you know, vibrant, safe pet food before it even gets to the market, so you don't really have to worry about the end product. And what I've been able to analyze within this is that the CARP FM is providing those measures in order to mitigate risk before it ever gets to, you know, the consumer. And I find that pretty fascinating to me. Would you agree with that it's mitigating risk?
Oh, for sure, and that's what it's all about, because you're that GMP program that holds you to a higher standard. You know, and especially, I mean, sure, people can implement, anybody can implement a GMP program.
Yeah.
But if you're not getting it audited, you're just kidding yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you get another set of eyes, or an outside set of eyes looking in on what you're doing, you see things, or they see things that you need to improve on.
And that means the turkey's not falling on the floor, then you're using it type
exactly.
thing. Like, and that's very important, because it's a concern with any food that's being manufactured, that GMPs are being not only followed, but, you know,
implemented
and followed, and, you know,
audited.
through a third party audited, because anyone can say they have GMPs and, you know, we have high standards and quality, but that's what's confusing, and why I'm grateful that you're talking, because not many people want to go down that road, because there's loopholes there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and there's guys that are doing a good job.
Yeah.
But until you get the audits, like, I mean, I can't stress that enough. Like, you're not doing everything you can.
Yeah. It's giving an assurance to the consumer that
somebody's double checking what you're doing.
I've taken it out of my hands, and you don't have to just trust my word for it. Type
Exactly.
yeah. That's pretty cool. Well, we have a lot to do. I can't think of anything else I want to ask at this moment in time, but we're going to get to do a lot of cool stuff today. I guess anything beyond what we've talked about, people can watch in the webisode, or, you know.
Yeah, well,
or they can call
we got
you.
more to cover today. Oh, for sure. I mean, we're accessible for sure.
Okay.
You know.
All right. Well, let's get